The third temple prophecy is moving fast. New signs emerge in Jerusalem. Chapter 1. The Awakening. This is happening right now in Jerusalem. The streets went silent. People left their work and looked up at the sky. Even reporters had no words. And when I tell you why, you'll understand what's truly unfolding. The mainstream media isn't covering this. They don't want you to see what's really happening. But the truth can't stay hidden forever. You're watching this because God wanted you to see it. Something in your spirit recognizes this moment as different. The ancient stones of the old city shimmered under the morning sun. The dome of the rock glowed gold beneath a clear sky. Synagogues, churches, and mosques all stood in silence. The same soil where prophets walked, the same streets that heard the Messiah's footsteps. It began at 6:47 a.m. Jerusalem time. A sound echoed across the Temple Mount. Not thunder, but something deeper, something that seemed to come from beneath the earth itself. The sound lasted exactly 7 minutes, and in those 7 minutes, everything changed. Dr. Sarah Cohen, an archaeologist working near the Western Wall, dropped her tools. "I've been excavating here for 20 years. She whispered to her team. "I've never felt the ground respond like this." The ancient limestone seemed to hum with energy, as if the very foundations were awakening from a deep sleep. Thousands of people began walking toward the old city, not running in panic, but moving with purpose, as if being gently called home. A pilgrim from Brazil said, "I felt my heart pulling me toward the mount. I couldn't explain it to my family, but I had to go." An elderly rabbi from the nearby Hurva synagogue stepped outside his study and declared, "The stones are singing again." Security cameras captured something extraordinary. Birds circling the Temple Mount in perfect formation, 7 times clockwise, then 7 times counterclockwise, before settling in complete silence on the ancient walls. Even the doves seemed to understand that this moment was sacred. This isn't hysteria. This is prophecy in motion. What the prophets saw thousands of years ago is unfolding before our eyes. Zechariah 8:23 declares, "In those days 10 men from every nation and language will take hold of one Jew by the hem of his garment and say, 'Let us go with you, because we have heard that God is with you.'" Acts 2:5 reminds us, "Now there were staying in Jerusalem God-fearing Jews from every nation under heaven." My friend, can you feel this in your spirit? Do you realize we are witnessing what generations only dreamed of? God is moving the pieces of the end times. The veil between heaven and earth is getting thinner. This is the preview of the greatest event in human history. But what happened that morning was only the beginning. Because as the sun set over Jerusalem that evening, something even more remarkable occurred near the Temple Mount. Something that would make archaeologists, rabbis, and believers around the world stop everything they were doing. What they discovered that night would shake the foundations of prophecy itself. Today, something impossible appeared over the Temple Mount. The evening light cast long shadows across the ancient stones as Dr. Marcus Klein, a German archaeologist, made a discovery that would change everything. Working beneath the Temple Mount in the legitimate archaeological tunnels, his team's ground-penetrating radar detected something that shouldn't exist. "The readings don't make sense," Dr. Klein told his assistant, wiping dust from his glasses. "There's a chamber here, perfectly preserved, showing no signs of water damage or structural decay. According to our dating methods, it's been sealed for over 2,000 years. The chamber they found wasn't just any room. It contained artifacts that seemed to glow with their own inner light. 7 golden vessels, each one crafted with precision that surpassed modern capabilities. Ancient Hebrew inscriptions covered the walls, but these weren't ordinary writings. They seemed to shimmer and move in the flashlight beams, as if the words themselves were alive. Rabbi David Goldstein, one of Jerusalem's most respected scholars, was called to examine the inscriptions. His hands trembled as he read the ancient text aloud. When the children of Israel return to the land of their fathers, and the nations gather like eagles to the mountain of the Lord, then shall the house of the Almighty be established forever. These words, Rabbi Goldstein whispered, they're not just prophecy, they're instructions. Even reporters had no words when the initial reports began to circulate quietly through religious communities. This discovery was being kept from mainstream media, but whispers spread like wildfire through synagogues, churches, and study halls around the world. Meanwhile, something equally extraordinary was happening above ground. Pilgrims from every continent began arriving in Jerusalem, each one claiming they felt called to come, not through social media campaigns or organized tours, but through dreams, visions, and an inexplicable inner knowing. Maria Santos from the Philippines said, "I saw Jerusalem in my dream for 7 nights straight. Each night, a voice told me, 'Come home, daughter, come home.' She had never left her village before, but somehow found the means to make the journey." Pastor James Wright from Kenya shared a similar story. "I was reading Isaiah 2 when suddenly the words seemed to lift off the page. 'All nations will stream to the mountain of the Lord.' I knew I had to be there. The old city began filling with believers from every tribe and tongue, just as Revelation 7:9 described, a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language. But the most remarkable part wasn't the discovery or the gathering. It was how these strangers began working together. Language barriers seemed to dissolve. A rabbi from New York found himself deep in conversation with a pastor from Nigeria, both somehow understanding each other perfectly. A grandmother from South Korea embraced a young man from Argentina as if they were family. Joel 2:28 was manifesting before their eyes. "I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." They don't want you to see what's really happening. The discovery remained officially classified, but truth has a way of spreading when God ordains it. These pilgrims didn't need news reports. They could feel the ancient prophecies stirring to life in their spirits. Can you feel this in your spirit? The chamber beneath the Temple Mount wasn't just an archaeological find. It was a divine appointment. God had preserved these artifacts for this exact moment in history, when his people would need tangible proof that his promises endure forever. As night fell over Jerusalem, the gathered believers began to pray and worship together in the old city streets. Their voices rose in harmony despite speaking different languages, creating a sound that seemed to echo the heavenly chorus described in Revelation. But what happened next would challenge everything they thought they knew about the timing of God's plan, because as they worshipped under the Jerusalem stars, the chamber beneath their feet began to reveal its greatest secret. The third temple wasn't just a future promise. The blueprints had been waiting all along. Jerusalem stopped this morning for a reason no one can explain. As dawn broke over the Temple Mount, Dr. Klein's team made their most stunning discovery yet. Deep within the sealed chamber, behind the 7 golden vessels, they found something that made their hearts skip. Architectural plans carved into stone tablets, detailing exact specifications for a temple. But these weren't just any plans. Every measurement, every material, every sacred dimension was specified with divine precision. The tablets showed details that matched perfectly with Ezekiel's temple vision, yet included elements that no human architect could have imagined. "Look at this," Dr. Klein called to his team, his voice filled with awe. "The foundation stones, they're not theoretical. They're marked with coordinates that correspond to locations right here beneath the mount." Rabbi Goldstein studied the inscriptions with growing amazement. These plans show how the third temple can be built in harmony with existing structures. No destruction, no conflict, just divine engineering that accounts for every sacred site in Jerusalem. Something in your spirit recognizes this moment as different. While the world debates politics and timelines, God has been preparing the solution all along. The plans showed a temple that would welcome all nations, just as Isaiah 56:7 promised, "My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations." Above ground, the gathering of believers continued to grow. They came not with banners or protests, but with hearts full of worship and hands ready to serve. Jews, Christians, and even Muslim believers who recognized Jesus as Messiah found themselves drawn together by something greater than their differences. Ahmed Hassan, a Muslim convert from Egypt, shared his testimony. "For years, I searched for truth in many places, but when I heard what was happening in Jerusalem, I knew the God of Abraham was calling all his children home." The streets filled with acts of unexpected kindness. Elderly pilgrims found young people eager to help carry their bags. Vendors began giving away food freely, saying they felt compelled to serve rather than sell. Children from different nations played together as if they had known each other for years. Pastor Elizabeth Thompson from Australia witnessed something remarkable. "I saw a group of believers praying in Hebrew, Arabic, English and Spanish all at the same time. Somehow, everyone understood everyone else. It was like Pentecost happening again. But the truth can't stay hidden forever. News of the gatherings began reaching believers worldwide through social media posts and personal testimonies. Jerusalem Awakening began trending as people shared stories of dreams, visions, and unexplained urges to pray for the holy city. The ancient stones of the old city seemed to respond to the worship. Pilgrims reported feeling warmth emanating from the western wall stones, as if the rocks themselves were alive with God's presence. The same soil where prophets walked was literally vibrating with spiritual energy. Dr. Klein's archaeological team faced an impossible decision. The chamber they had discovered contained enough artifacts and plans to revolutionize understanding of biblical prophecy. But something told them this discovery was meant for the body of believers, not academic institutions. "We've been entrusted with something sacred," Dr. Klein told his team, "and these aren't museum pieces, they're tools for the end-time harvest." My friend, can you feel it? The third temple isn't just about a building. It's about God's people becoming the living temple described in 1 Corinthians 3:16. "Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple, and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst?" As believers continued arriving in Jerusalem, they began organizing themselves naturally into groups focused on prayer, worship, service, and study. No human leadership structure was imposed. The Holy Spirit was orchestrating everything. Revelation 21:3 echoed through their gatherings. "And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them.'" Do you realize we are witnessing what generations only dreamed of? The blueprints in the chamber weren't just for stone and mortar. They were for the spiritual temple that God has been building in the hearts of his people across all nations. But as the movement grew, so did the attention of those who preferred the old systems of division and control. Forces that had kept God's people separated for centuries began to mobilize against this supernatural unity. The greatest test was yet to come. What happened today stopped a city, but what's coming will stop the entire world. 7 days after the first discovery, something unprecedented occurred that would be remembered as the moment everything changed. As believers from every nation continued gathering in Jerusalem, the chamber beneath the Temple Mount revealed its final secret. Dr. Klein's team discovered that the 7 golden vessels weren't just artifacts, they were keys. When arranged according to the blueprint specifications, they unlocked a larger chamber that contained the most remarkable sight any of them had ever witnessed. The foundation stones of the third temple were already in place, perfectly preserved beneath the earth for over 2 millennia. Carved into the central stone was an inscription that made Rabbi Goldstein weep. "Built in the year of Messiah's sacrifice, sealed until the day of his return." The temple was never destroyed, Rabbi Goldstein whispered in amazement. The foundation was hidden, waiting for this moment. Above ground, the gathering had grown to hundreds of thousands of believers from every continent. But instead of chaos, there was supernatural order. Languages merged into understanding, cultures blended into worship, and denominations dissolved into unity. People left their work and looked up at the sky because something was shifting in the heavenly places. The very atmosphere over Jerusalem seemed charged with divine presence. Clouds formed patterns that resembled the biblical descriptions of God's glory, and the evening light seemed to dance on the ancient stones. Maria Santos from the Philippines found herself translating between a rabbi from Brooklyn and a pastor from Seoul, despite speaking only Tagalog and broken English a week earlier. The words just came, she explained. It was like my mouth was speaking, but the Spirit was giving the interpretation. The mainstream media tried to cover the gathering as a religious festival, but they couldn't explain the supernatural elements. Cameras captured moments that defied natural explanation. Sick people being healed through simple prayer, bitter enemies embracing in forgiveness, and children speaking in languages they had never learned. They don't want you to see what's really happening, but the evidence was becoming undeniable. This wasn't mass hysteria or religious manipulation. This was the fulfillment of promises written thousands of years ago. As the sun set on the seventh day, something remarkable happened. The believers gathered around the Temple Mount began to sing. No one organized it, no leader directed it, but voices from every nation joined in harmony, singing "Holy, Holy, Holy" in dozens of languages simultaneously. The sound was so pure, so unified, that it seemed to pierce the veil between earth and heaven. Reports came in from around the world of people hearing the worship in places as far away as New York, London and Sydney, despite being thousands of miles from Jerusalem. Ezekiel 43:2 was being fulfilled before their eyes. I saw the glory of the God of Israel coming from the east. His voice was like the roar of rushing waters, and the land was radiant with his glory. In that moment, Dr. Klein made a decision that would change history. With Rabbi Goldstein's blessing and the support of representatives from every gathered nation, they opened the chamber to the believing community. The third temple would be built not by politics or human effort, but by the hands of those whose hearts God had prepared. But here's the most beautiful part. As the foundation stones were revealed, it became clear that the physical temple was only a symbol. The real temple was already complete, built from living stones gathered from every tribe and tongue, united by faith in the Messiah. 1 Peter 2:5 came alive. You also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. The archaeological discovery had served its purpose. It wasn't about uncovering the past. It was about revealing the present. God's temple had been under construction for 2,000 years, one believer at a time, one heart at a time, one act of love at a time. Can you feel this in your spirit? The third temple prophecy wasn't just about a building in Jerusalem. It was about you becoming part of God's eternal dwelling place. As believers began returning to their home countries, they carried something back with them. A vision of unity that transcended human divisions, and blueprints not made of stone, but written on hearts by the Spirit of the living God. Now that you know this, what will you do about it? Are you ready for what comes next? While the world sleeps, God is calling those who are awake to be part of his living temple, built without hands, established forever. The gathering in Jerusalem dispersed, but the temple continued to grow. In houses and hearts, in communities and congregations around the world, the living stones found their places in God's eternal architecture. What happened in Jerusalem didn't end. It began. The third temple is rising, one believer at a time, until the day when earth and heaven become one, and the dwelling of God is forever among his people. The prophecy is moving fast, my friend. The question isn't when it will be completed. The question is whether you're ready to find your place in the temple that will never be destroyed. Maranatha, come, Lord Jesus. The temple is ready. The people are prepared. The glory is about to be revealed. And this is only the beginning.